Hello and welcome to AviaDev Insight Africa, the podcast offering a window to the world of African aviation with your host, Jon Howell, CEO and founder of AviaDev Africa. Today, I am joined by an African airline that has huge ambitions and is going through a real period of transformation, adding new aircraft and new routes. The airline in question is TAAG Angola Airlines, and the guest today is Miguel Carneiro, the Chief Commercial Officer of the airline. Now, Miguel, those of you who are avid listeners, joined me on the podcast almost exactly a year ago to the day. I think it's just a year and 5 days since we last spoke on the podcast. There's been so many developments over those 12 months that he's been kind enough to rejoin me, and we're going to revisit our conversation around fleet, network, the move to the new airport, and also to preview the hosting of the Afra AGA in November that I am delighted to say I will be in Luanda for as well. I'm very much looking forward to it. So lots to discuss, and let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast, Miguel.
Thank you, John, and thanks for having me once again. Exactly 1 year and a couple of days.
We can make this an annual thing now, and I'd like to start actually with the reflections on the last 12 months, because I listened back to the previous episode. It is there for anybody who is listening to refer back to. And we were talking just ahead of the 787 and A220 deliveries. They hadn't actually started at that point. Some of these aircraft have arrived now and have already been deployed into service. And we've seen Sao Paulo being reinstated. We've seen additional frequencies into existing destinations in Southern Africa, so densifying those routes. And of course, the really exciting new route to Nairobi as well. My question to start with is to reflect on those 12 months. Like, how close has the actual experience of the last 12 been to how we're hoping it would pan out? How does it compare?
Well, John, thanks for that once again. Great question. We're just about 80% achievement of what we set ourselves to achieve for 2025, John. In terms of the product itself, if you kindly recall in our audience, we set ourselves to recover the legacy fleet of the airline and really focus on building back the product to standards. And we started to do that in terms of our 777 to make sure that we had a good cabin, comfort, amenities, flight service, improving our menus on board. So overall, we started at that line. Also, in terms of new product itself, we started to induct part of the new fleet that we had already committed to. So as you mentioned, and the A220 started to be delivered. We are now at airplane number 3 out of 15. And the good news is that airplane number 4 will be delivered just in about 20 days. So we are right on track. We have not seen any delays in terms of OEM delivery schedule. Everything is pretty much on track in terms of the regional fleet. So far, so good. In terms of the intercontinental fleet and the wide-body fleet, we also in track to close the year with our 4 787s with schedule. We have taken delivery of 2 of those airplanes, 2 787s-9. Airplane number 2 just arrived a couple weeks ago, and it's now in its final tuning to get into service, also deployed in the fleet. So product has been good. In terms of building back the product, we have been able to improve significantly, John, in terms of our distribution channels. We set ourselves to build an airline and transform an airline that embraces technology, that embraces innovation. So what we did, we completely rebuilt TAAG's website according to best practices and up to the best standards in the industry. Very friendly user platform, different languages, different currencies that pretty much at a click of hand gives our customers now the ability to understand what products TAAG is being offered, price-wise, scheduled, destinations. So very good. And last but not least, we have completed the development of our mobile app. So it's done. We have not yet launched it, John. We shall launch it in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure yourself and the AviaDev audience will be able to have a sneak peek at the app once you visit us here for the Afra AGA.
Yeah, amazing. All of these things, and in this day and age, having that app, I think my phone is absolutely full of different airline apps, and some are better than others. They're not all created equal, but I'm sure that you'll give it a really good shot. And it's just the nature of the way distribution and the way people are purchasing is changing. And the more people you can get that that purchase direct from you, the better from a profitability and a revenue perspective.
Let me tip in on this. Depending on the geography, people will have a ton of airline apps. This is not the case in Africa because Africa as a region is underserved. So you will most likely have a couple apps, eventually one or two of your traditional airlines that take you transcontinental, but intra-Africa, this is where the challenge comes. And this is where, if you recall, it's being TAAG strategy from Angola to Africa and from Africa to the world. So this is where we see the great potential. And this is why our network expansion strategy has been following this path.
Yeah, I think that's really important part to concentrate on. And we're going to come to the route very shortly. But I just wanted to clarify something on the 787s, because we talked about this on the podcast last year, which is the ones that you've received. And we talked about why you received them to get up in the queue. They've got different cabin configurations, and the latest one's got 345 seats, 282 in economy, 63 premium economy. And I'm assuming, knowing TAAG's business, that isn't ideal for what it is that you normally do in your passenger profile. So how are you planning to reconfigure these, and how challenging is that with the supply chain issues? We're hearing about supply chain with loads of different things, but even with reconfiguring seating and things like that, getting this done, where are we up to with making that change?
Not soon enough, but at the same time, a challenge and an opportunity. And I've been discussing this internally with the team and within the organization. We, before taking delivery of this airplane, right when we closed the deal with Boeing, we were able to also close the deal with seat manufacturers to actually do the cabin reconfiguration with the support of Boeing. Right. But as we all know, supply chain has been a challenge, and therefore we are in the queue. And the reconfiguration will be sometime second half of 2026, which meant obviously the challenge of operating a premium economy and economy only wide body. But then also we have seen this as a great opportunity to bring in a different product to the market. By the market, we are talking about the African market. Why? Traditionally, TAAG has operated wide bodies within Africa, notably to South Africa, with 3 cabin configuration: first class, business class, and economy. And we have seen the performance of our economy class to an important market like Johannesburg or Cape Town, right? What we have been doing in the last year and a half, we have been specifically very disciplined in deploying only narrow bodies on those routes. Johannesburg, Cape Town, with fully dedicated Airbus 220. Since they came, they've been fully allocated to the Cape Town route, for which we fly 10 flights a week to Cape Town at this stage. Joburg, we are flying 9 times a week at this stage, right? If you look at the triangle between Angola, South Africa, and Nigeria, we are talking about roughly about close to 400 million inhabitants, Nigeria alone with 230 million. Flying narrow bodies is the ideal for the market, taking in the current market characteristics, but we see a lot of demand connecting in Luanda, going wide body, intercontinental to Brazil or to China, for example, with traders. And when you look into traders within Angola, within the African region, within Nigeria, even South Africa, they look for a lot of belly space. So you're trying to balance your cargo, your belly cargo, traditional from the cargo channel, with the belly space luggage format that is traditionally preferred by those traders. So the wide body gives us that optimum and that ideal profile of equipment. And when you look at South Africa and you look at Nigeria, what we are looking to do is really to provide the perfect connectivity between those 3 markets, Angola, South Africa, and Nigeria, by offering a very competitive product. So we're talking about price-wise competitive, but ancillary-wise very competitive, where a passenger will look at TAAG and say, maybe these guys are offering me, in terms of my luggage allowance, a more competitive offering than the ones that are offering me a narrow body solution where the airline or the service provider itself doesn't have much room to play with as much as we would. If you connect all of that in Luanda, and I'm sure we'll talk about the new airport. But if you connect that through the new airport and you go long haul to Brazil, Sao Paulo, where there's big traders movement between Nigeria and Brazil. And then when you look at China, between Africa and China, we have the optimum product with this wide body to test the market with. Remember, we will do the reconfiguration second half of 2026. So we got a great opportunity to play and do that. I would like to tell you, John, and the audience of AviaDev, it's a unique opportunity, John. We would not have this opportunity with a traditional fleet ordering and purchase package model where we would simply go with the three cabin configuration the TAAG has adopted, the business, premium economy, and economy. We are lucky. I feel that the commercial team, sales distribution, the product development team within TAAG is very lucky because we get to test a completely different product in the market.
And is there a chance then? I guess my question here is you go on that strategy and if it's successful and the traders say, hey, I get a really generous baggage allowance, this works, you build that market, that you might say, hey, maybe some of these aircraft we should leave in this configuration, deploy on those particular routes. And the new ones, what we'll do is we'll focus on those for the routes where the profile of the passenger makes sense. And we've seen this with some of the other airlines that have been in a similar position to you that have taken, so Airlink, for example, have taken these E2s. The first three, they didn't choose the configuration. They're 100% economy class. So the way they're doing it is they're saying, we're going to deploy this on those dense routes, whereas we will save the ones with the business for those different profiles of routes. So it gives you that opportunity. Is this something that's still in the works, or you want to unify all four to be the same configuration so you can change them in and out, or is that decision still to be made?
It's about finding the sweet spot, John. As an airline, we have chosen a cabin profile. It would be very difficult for us now to justify just a full economy, even if the market responds very positively to that. We have thought about it and have joked internally that should this be a success, we should just leave it. Fact of the matter is that we already signed for the new seats. We already paid for the new seats. So we can just go back and say we'll leave it that way. But what we can do is really replicate in terms of revenue management and inventory management, and in terms of pricing strategy, the model, even though we change the cabin to additional business, premium economy, and business seats. Remember, we adding premium economy and we adding just about 30 seats in business in the entire airplane anyways, right? So it will still give us the opportunity. For us, the most important validation on this business case is really the connectivity, the product, and the deployment of that product in these critical markets within Africa. We know the continent is significantly underserved, and we know how expensive it is to fly within the continent, and a lot of times how inconvenient it is. So by having the opportunity to deploy this product, we get to test the wide body model within Africa. Remember, we do have 5-hour flights within Africa with sizable markets. Obviously, when we look at Luanda to Joburg, we're just talking about 3.5 hours, as much as Luanda to Lagos, 3-hour flight. But we are talking about a very sizable market. And we are talking about between the three of us, and if you add up Kenya, we are talking about top 5 economies in sub-Saharan Africa. So we should be able, in terms of market size, we should be able to make it work.
Yeah, I really think it is interesting. I really like what you're saying. And I also agree with you on the sector lens that sometimes people are like, no, I'm not sure I really want to do a really long sector on a narrow body. And also you've got the baggage allowance and all that stuff. So what you have is the opportunity to say, do you know what, there may be some additional on these particular days, let's deploy the 787 instead of the 220 because we can get that extra capacity and those extra seats into the market. And that market can continue to be served, as you say, even once you've reconfigured the aircraft, because you're not getting rid of all the economy seats. Those traders can still travel with you. They can still have the same thing, but you've got a different revenue model when you're putting in the business and first. And of course, the people who are listening to this will understand why the aeroplanes arrived in that configuration. It wasn't something that TAAG chose. It was a way of you getting the aeroplanes quicker because they were available. And now it's about reconfiguration. So this is preferable. I think it's very important to make this point to you joining the back of the queue, ordering a new 787 and having to wait another 6-7 years to receive it. That just wasn't an option. Right?
That's exactly a great point, John. It was either that and then wait in queue to get your cabin reconfigured or actually get the ideal airplane in 2031.
Yeah, it's a pragmatic decision, definitely. We're going to talk about some new routes in a minute, but I just wanted to talk to you about Nairobi because that was really exciting. 220 route is first time that you've been over there. It's East Africa and Angola being connected. And the thing that's really interesting here is the role of cargo. And that's what I really want to talk to you about this. Is the route performing in line with expectations? You're a new airline in a new market. And talk to us about that role of cargo, because I think it's quite unique in terms of the flower business and some of the imports and exports for Angola. Have you been pleasantly surprised by that? Because that can be the unsung hero on some of these routes when you launch them is you may not have a full plane, but if you get a full belly and you're transporting valuable cargo, it can really top up the revenue. Talk to us about the Nairobi route a little bit.
Nairobi has been performing quite well. We started flying cargo there first, dedicated Boeing 737 BCF. We started in April this year. It's been going very well. And then we launched September this year, the passenger service. The cargo is not really surprising me because of the traditional footprint that we know of Nairobi. Jomo Kenyatta is a cargo hub in Africa, 5 cargo terminals, very business-friendly environment. All global players have been operating from there for quite some time. So cargo has been just where we expected it to be. Passenger has gone beyond our expectations, right? We have seen a lot of demand at this stage, double digits passengers in connectivity using TAAG going both to South Africa and Nigeria, believe it or not. We see passengers looking for what? Product. They're looking for pricing. They look for the distribution channel to be right there. And all of the tweaks and the improvements that we have done at the airline have played rightly so into the market. Obviously, we have done a lot of work prior to opening the route. So we have done a lot of team buildings with the local teams in Nairobi. We have worked with the sales agents in Nairobi in order, first of all, to start to align visions. What the TAAG was expecting from the Nairobi market and what could we realistically expect from the inputs coming from our sales agents in Kenya. So that has gone really well, and the performance of the flight has surprised us. We have achieved 1,000 passengers in a route in less than 30 days. And I'm not going to go into details exactly what the amount of transit passengers were, but I can only say there was a lot.
Yeah, and you have to start somewhere. You're building a hub that is intra-African, and then of course these people are also looking to do something further afield as well. And that's where I want to come to you now is some of the routes that have been discussed before and just see whether you can give us any inkling on this. Because I think back in 2023, there was conversations, there was news about London Gatwick being on the radar. And that's been a huge airport of success for Africa over the last few years. Earlier this year, there were also rumors of a flight to Houston because of obviously the oil links, the oil business there. Are these in that consideration basket as you start to receive these last 2 787s in the current order?
Yeah, indeed, John. The strategy is Africa first, world after. We have started with Nairobi. It's going really well. I'd like to give you this great news that we just received just 2 days ago, the final approval from the Ivorian Civil Aviation to fly into Abidjan. So we have a green light to fly into Abidjan. It's going to be a planning and scheduling work now from our teams. Our sales distribution teams will start working, and we will officially announce the launch of the route and the date of the first flight in the next couple of weeks. With that in mind, we are continuing to progress in several destinations. Accra, notably, we're going in through the final documentation within that. And obviously around the region between Lusaka and Harare, also part of our plans, which we are continuing to discuss. We are getting very receptive messages from local authorities, both at the airport level and the civil aviation. A lot of investment package incentives being given to us by both the Zambian Civil Aviation as well as the Zimbabwean civil aviation. So that really helps us into getting there. The package is really financially attractive. They're willing to share risk with us and share costs with us to operate for that. In terms of the transcontinental opportunities, yes, indeed, London is still in our radar. With everything that has been going on with the airline, obviously changing airports, etc., the pipeline has become a little longer in terms of where do we realistically expect London to come live. We are continuing to progress with the approvals and all the authorizations to fly to the UK and also Guangzhou in China. That one is the one that is more advanced at this stage. We can say that. We expect it to have still this year, if no delays occur on either side, both on our side, the airline, Angola civil aviation, and the Chinese civil aviation. Things are on track. We are really excited about the Guangzhou and the opportunity to connect one more African capital to the world's e-commerce hub in China, right? And we know how important the China-Africa business relationships have been in the last 2 decades. This is going very well. So this is where we look into tweaking and deploy those additional assets. Again, remember that the 787s are coming also with a view of replacing some of the legacy assets that we have. So we are not really looking to grow in terms of wide bodies as much as we are looking to replace the old legacy fleet that we have. So then this is going really according to plan, John.
Amazing. I have to ask the question. I'm so delighted to hear some of those destinations that you talked about in Africa. But I have to ask the question about the role that maybe AviaDev played in this, because you were really active and you came to AviaDev in Zanzibar this year, and the team's always supported the event. And when you were talking about some of those guys, they were obviously present there. So you were able to progress that from meeting them in person, and it's gone from there a little bit?
AviaDev has been the anchor for the intra-Africa discussions. We started to have digital conversations with some of those players, but having the opportunity to meet them face-to-face at AviaDev really brought us close together. So the perfect example is Zimbabwe. We met the civil aviation and the airport authority at the last AviaDev, and this built us a really aligned vision and what we could achieve and what they could put to the table and what TAAG could bring to the table. And we're continuing to expect that in the next AviaDev event to continue not only to align with those players, but also to bring the proof to the pudding, right? I mean, that our discussions on those events that are critical for the continent are really leading to results in terms of business growth, new routes, better service, and a more connected Africa. At the end of the day, that's what we want.
Oh, that's great. It's great to hear. And as you said, the focus is on the intra-African network first and foremost. Get that strong so you can feed the hub. Guangzhou was one of my questions I was going to ask you. So, that's brilliant because, of course, especially because you're so strong in Nigeria, that there is a huge market between Nigeria and Guangzhou that we know about. And again, it's that trader market, but there's so much more here as well. So I think that is something that is particularly interesting too. You talked about, obviously, the fleet from a wide body perspective. The 4 that you've got coming in are to partly replace and obviously update. In terms of that, you've got 2 787-9s and then you've got 10s coming in. So is the idea, bring in the 787s, get the 2s, densify Africa, and then at that point, take a deep breath and say, right, where next in the world? Is that kind of the focus is on that short haul fleet?
Yes, indeed. John, one of our principal challenge is to transform the airline in terms of the financial strength of the organization. We can talk about everything we want. We can have all the visions that we want, but we need to have strong foundation. So transforming TAAG is right now sitting under 6 pillars. Number 1, people. Number 2, an efficient organization. Number 3, having an operating model that delivers excellence. Number 4, having a commercial model that delivers commercial superiority. Number 5, it's already here, John. I'm really excited because we have activated the new Luanda International Airport as the hub. And number 6 is definitely the financial sustainability going short, medium, long term of the airline. We have started to have high-level discussions from the airline to Angola's Ministry of Transportation and to the highest levels within the Angolan government with Boeing and Airbus in order really to see what can the future be in terms of wide bodies. We have a long-lasting relationship with Boeing, and obviously the discussions have been taking place with Boeing at this stage. Deliveries are coming 2031, 2032. It gives us time. We are thinking about what are options in terms of dash nines and dash tens, because obviously we would want to have a single fleet mix in terms of wide bodies and therefore eventually really just focus on the dash nines. But maybe the dash tens by that time would prove us wrong. We might be in a position where we might just then swing the rope towards dash tens only. We don't know. It's a new product that we're going to be deploying. Traditionally, dash tens have been deployed in Southeast Asia. This is where we see most of them. But again, we are getting a great opportunity to test product in this context of being able and getting the support of Boeing to close these full wide bodies with this mix. It's allowing us to test the market, and between now and 2029, we shall see what's going to come.
Yeah, it's such a difficult experience to do the fleet planning because, of course, you're saying what we need today, we need to now ask what are we going to need in 5-6 years' time. And that's just so difficult to know, especially in a period of transformation. It's what's going to hit, where are we going to be flying, making those decisions. The deliveries are coming, that we're not having the slippage necessarily in the delivery times that we were. So things are getting back, but it doesn't mean that backlog doesn't exist and you don't have to join the back of the queue or find a creative solution as you've done in the past. And that solution was found before you were actually with the airlines. So you've come in and adopted that. You mentioned the airport, absolutely vital before I let you go that we talk about the new airport, because TAAG moved operations just this last weekend, right? As everything is starting to move across. I'm super excited. I've been following this. I've been part of that process when it came to presenting this and all the rest of it for years. My first trip to Angola was 2014 and we were talking about it then. It's there, it's open. Talk to us about what the process has been like and what the advantages are of now being at the new airport.
It has been 2 years in the making. Remember, we inaugurated the airport in November 2023. We started cargo flights in December that same year. December 2023, we started cargo flights out of the new airport. From that moment on, we started to work really closely with the airport operator and all the entities that are part of the airport to activate as quick as possible passenger flights, which we started in November 2024. So we started with a couple domestic flights in November. Phase 1, phase 2 was incremental domestic flights in December. Then we hit the pause because it was Christmas, New Year's, and we don't want to have any trouble with our dear customers between Christmas and New Year's. And we don't want to add additional complexities to at that time of the year for obvious reasons. So the momentum back in February with stage 3. By stage 3, we completed full domestic flights being operated from the new airport, and we added Kinshasa and Brazzaville as well to those destinations, mainly because they were being operated by regional airplanes in the likes of the Q400. And that's the reason why we felt that it would be best to move those routes as well there. Unfortunately, the performance of the routes dropped for obvious reasons because those 2 routes got removed from the network system, the hub system and the connectivity that we were being built. But we felt that it was a pain that was worth it to take at that stage. And from October 19th, which was just, as you mentioned, rightly so, last weekend, we made the transition of stage 4, which was the last stage of transition, with the complete transfer of international flights and the complete transfer of TAAG's network and operations to the new airport. It's going really well. Our first passenger flight landing at the new airport was a Joburg flight, and our second flight was a Lagos flight. So this is a testament of the vision that TAAG is being really focused into implementing in terms of Africa connectivity. The first 2 flights arriving at the new airport were from those two fantastic markets, both Joburg and Lagos. And obviously, when we hit the early morning, because those flights, the first Joburg flight landed at 3 a.m. and Lagos landed at 4:30 a.m., which shows our vision to have a 24-hour operating hub that will provide the best product in a region. So it's going well. Minor hiccups as you would expect from such a big infrastructure, small bags delays, a couple immigration and customs that also needs to be acquainted, because we are talking about a completely transformation of the operating model at the airport from the new airport and the old airport. Remember, the old airport was inaugurated in 1956, John, and we are in 2025, late, almost 2026. So we are talking about a 69, 70-year difference, which obviously we are talking about an airport that now has jetways for which passengers can board and deboard at a much quicker way. Services can come on board quicker way and clean the plane, refuel the plane, and we could get going as fast as we go. That means everybody within the airport ecosystem needs to gear up a couple notches to come up to the standard levels. And everybody's working really hard, John, to get this going. Luckily, yourself, the AviaDev audience will be able to experience that airport once they come for the AGA, for the Afra AGA.
Yeah, you're very good at this, because that was an excellent segue to the final question, which is TAAG is the host airline for the 57th Afra AGA at the end of November. As I said, I'll be there. Loads of the listeners will be there as well. So I think it'd be just really interesting to get an idea from your side. What can they expect from attending? I think the first thing is experiencing the new airport. And I'm lucky enough that I've been to Luanda a few times. But is there anything specific you want to point out and whet the appetite for those attending?
There'll be, first of all, obviously the infrastructure, the services, the city, the culture. But in terms of the AGA itself, I think it will be a great AGA. Remember, Angola is celebrating 50 years of independence this year. We activated the new international airport. The airline is bringing new airplanes, opening new routes. And obviously, we are saving a few announcements also for the Afra AGA that I'm not going to throw in the spoilers. And no spoilers to you guys or the AviaDev audience, but indeed, we have some great stuff. Really focus, and I can give a couple of hints, really focus into this Africa connectivity strategy.
Okay, yeah. If I let you keep talking, you might tell me. That would be nice. But no, I'm excited to hear about that and obviously cover it and support, because I think the transformation of the airline from the branding, your team there, Zanildo and the whole team, done an amazing job. The branding is really on point, and I think that is something that's there, but it's such a small thing, but it's not. It's a huge element. We understand it's a transformational time. There are teething problems when you go through transformation. It's very easy to continue something if you just sit in the same place, but Angola's made a decision to connect Africa and then connect Angola to the world once it's connected Africa to Angola. And I think that's a really bold vision. And all the information you've given us today is fantastic. And the support that you continue to show AviaDev is massively appreciated as well. So yeah, we look forward to that Botswana route soon as well. I'll tell the guys. I'm only joking. You didn't mention that yet, but who knows? But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thanks for giving us your time today. And I'll see you in a few weeks' time.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you as always. Appreciate AviaDev. Count on our support and everything that you guys have been doing to promote aviation in Africa and excellence in aviation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So in the show notes, you'll find a link so you can follow or connect with Miguel on LinkedIn. If you did enjoy the episode, do hit the share button on whatever platform it is that you're listening to. Share it with somebody in your network you think would benefit from having a listen. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will be back for the next episode very soon. So thank you all for joining us, and see you soon. Bye-bye.